flight boss, bitch, you know, for sure. You're now listening to the Mind Eminent Terry's Moon on the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And now we're going to get into planets in the third house. So now, what is the third house? Third house is the house of communication. One second. Third house is the house of communication. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, third house, just look at it like this. It's like a sequence of events. The first house is I am, right? The second house is what do I have? So that's where values start to come from. Now, what do you actually know about what you have? So that's when you start to look into details, and when you start to experience details, you get what? Information out of it. So information, and then when you get information, what comes after that? You want to communicate it. So this is like the third house construct. So when it breaks down into this realm of reality, it comes out into familiar places and faces. Because what's familiar to you? Your surroundings. And what's in your surroundings? Places and faces. So these are things that you communicate with. These are things that you first aware when you first pick up your first information from. Who you do first start to receive information and start to learn things about. Your siblings, your parents, your surrounding, your basic surroundings before you reach into the other houses. So that's the basic construct of the third house. So now let's talk about the sun being in the third house. We know the sun is how you act and your actions, but in this case right here, we got to talk about it as it being your energy and your vitality and what's gonna the sunlight. Wherever there's light, it illuminates whatever you don't see, right? So that means wherever that attention goes to. So the sun brings attention to whatever house it's in. The sun brings energy and vitality to whatever it's in, and it brings expression to whatever it's in. So you're gonna be the person. You're going to be the communicator in your familiar places or faces, or you're going to be around a lot of other people who are very communicator, who are very highly communicating amongst each other, people who talk a lot and stuff like that amongst the familiar places and faces. You're going to be very curious in your surroundings. You're going to see a lot of stuff, see a lot of details, see a lot of things going on in your surroundings, see a lot of your basic constructs and all that. You're going to be very curious. You're going to be very communicative, very analytical, you know what I'm saying, very logical when it comes to your surroundings, your familiar faces and places in your surroundings. So that's what the sun gonna do. So it's gonna illuminate. So you're gonna be the people. You're gonna be like the type of person that people need to come to communicate something or give off some type of information, or vice versa. You're gonna meet a lot of people who do this. So the sun is gonna brighten that social awareness up in your life. Now the moon. The moon is your reactions, the way you react, the way you build emotional stability and construct yourself, and how you react to your surroundings. Now, with the moon being here, you're going to be emotionally connected to things that's of the nature of communicating, things that's of the nature of, you know what I'm saying, learning information, being cynical in the head when it comes to understanding the way people structure the way they communicate, the way they structure the way they think, and you like to come up with many ways in your own. This is what makes you feel comfortable, when you're able to have someone to talk to, or when you're able to have someone to relate to, when you're able to have something you're gonna react to people's social skills. This is gonna be where your reactions to things you like to get involved with. When you say you walk into a room and you got a bunch of people playing sports, and then you got a bunch of people talking about something that's got something to do with something social. When you walk in, your energy is automatically gonna react to the people who's talking before the reaction towards the people who's probably doing things and doing sports. So your basic reaction is going to cause your actions to go more lean towards that energy and jump into that crowd than this crowd. So that's, you feel more comfortable with that type of stuff than, you know what I'm saying? You get what I'm trying to say? So that's how the moon is where you emotionally stable and things you react to in your reactions. Now, when it comes to, and then also you're going to have support with the moon right here. So you're going to manifest a lot of support when it comes to the social area of life, and getting information from others and this, that, and so forth. Now, we want to talk about Mercury. Mercury being in the third house. Now, Mercury is the way you communicate and the way you think. Mercury loves to be here because it gets to communicate and think in the realm of when people communicate and think. So you're going to be, with Mercury being here, you're going to be very articulate with your word, very good with your words, to the point that you could be sarcastic, a comedian, you could be some type of social worker in some type of way, help people understand their own thoughts, understand their own communication. You know what I'm saying? You could be a person who's into many languages, who know how to understand language off the bat, and things and so forth. Also, when it comes to this nature, with Mercury being in the third house, it's going to help you. It's going to benefit your social awareness to the point that anytime you're extra good at something, what happens? You may procrastinate on it. You may get lazy on it. So a lot of times you could retract yourself. A lot of times you may not want to communicate with anybody. You may get closed off and detached a lot of times and need time to recuperate. So that's how this could play also. So it has the yin and yang with that when it's in this house that it likes to be in. Because what do you do when you're at home? That's like when Mercury is at home. When you say you're Mercury and you're at home, sometimes you may be bored. You may have just bought the new God of War, or you might have not God, but Gears of War, that too. But you may have just bought the new Call of Duty or something like that. But you got bored with it and you ain't playing it. So it's right in front of you, but you're just not playing it. So that's like something you can do within the home. So if Mercury was here, it has the gift of communicating and getting information, but a lot of times, sometimes it get bored and sometimes it may not want to do it. So when you have Mercury in the third house, that sometimes it can resort to brooding. Now, when you have next Venus, Venus is how you love, how you appreciate, what you value, and how you relate to others. So Venus almost comes into an essence when it's in the third house. You're gonna love to talk. You're gonna appreciate others who like to talk. You're gonna value people who like to communicate with each other. You're gonna feel to a certain type of extent that this is the way how people can connect. So if you're in a relationship and you have Venus in the third house and you're in a relationship with someone who's always doing things, but they're never telling you the actual reason of why they're doing it, or whatever, for whatever reason what's going on in their chart, then it's going to make you feel like this is not a form of a relationship, because this is not a give and receive, and we're not communicating in the right way. It's like you're going to start to feel like you're on two different paths. Also with this right here, this is going to bring blessings to the point that you're going to get a lot of information. People are going to bless you with a lot of information within your life. You're going to run across a lot of people who are going to kind of like steer you in the right path of what you should be learning, what you should be knowing. These people may even like school, may love their surroundings, love the people that they know, appreciate and value the people that they can communicate with, whether they like them or they don't like them. They can come to the conclusion where they can put people in their life in certain situations, or why they need certain people, whether it's good or bad. They know how to value and appreciate all of a person. So, you know, and even when it comes to how a person think and communicate, these people love the minds. They love these people, what they call, what's that word again? When someone, they, instead of being sex, they like a person because the intelligence. Sapiosexual, you know what I'm saying? Nigga raw right there. So, you know, a lot of Venuses and the third house can be those, because they'd be in love with their mate or another person's information more in the knowledge that they got, more than their actual appearance, you know what I'm saying? So that's how Venus can play out. Also, it being in the third house. You know what I'm saying? Let's move on to Mars. Mars is your intentions, your desires, your willpower. So it's like Mars and Pluto. Pluto is transformation, but here's why. But look at Pluto like the grandfather or the energy of Mars, where Mars actually get its energy from. So it's more longevity. So what you desire on a day-to-day basis, say you just want to go get a cheeseburger for the day. That's something like Mars like. That's what you desire for the day. Pluto is more like grocery shopping. Something you're gonna desire, something long lasting. You know what I'm saying? Something so you transform your way of eating from day to day to something that you can eat every day. You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? You go through both of these elements, but it's deep desires, deep willpower, deep transformation. But the lighter side of it is Mars. So Mars is your intentions, things you intend to do, and carry out the duties and obligations of the sun. So Mars being in the third house is gonna you're gonna be aggressive when it comes to obtaining information, when it comes to communicating with people. You may even get a lot of people in your life that's aggressive amongst your basic surroundings and what you're familiar with. You're gonna also experience a lot of aggressive type conversations, arguments, maybe to a certain degree, high debates, maybe a lot of opposition, a lot of disagreements when it comes to other people. You're going to witness a lot of But then you're going to witness a lot of passion, a lot of passionate people. You're going to be passionate about a certain information that you just discovered, certain knowledges, or certain things you just learned about people. You're going to be, your intentions is going to be intended to see other people's intentions through their communication. So when people talk and when people around you, you peep out their intentions through their communication style, the way they think. You know what I'm saying? So that's how you would construct yourself with a Mars here being in the third house. You know what I'm saying? When people, because Mars is the planet of intentions and what you intend to do. So when you got Mars, the third house is the houses is the situations. So this is the communication life situation. So you see people's intentions and their passions and their desires through the way they communicate. A lot of times a person may tell you something, but their actions may do something else, but you always hold a person to their word. So when they start to do actions that wasn't with their word, you're still holding on to the word. So a lot of times you could get deceived a lot of times, but then a lot of times you could use that to your advantage, because you could speak, which I said, speak, communication, third house. You can start to speak on another person's faults when they start to try to say you got a fault. You can start to name all these things that they've been doing that you wasn't speaking on before. See what I'm saying? Now let's get into Jupiter. Jupiter being in the third house. Now Jupiter hates being here. Jupiter don't like to be here. This is the opposite house of Jupiter. Jupiter is not home, it's away. So you know, it's at work. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's at a place that it doesn't want to be, but it has to use the tools that it has in order to get the job done. So basically, you know what I'm saying, these people can either be superior in Jupiterian energy, but they can fall short. But the falling short, you learn faster. You know what I'm saying? Now, Jupiter in the third house. It's gonna kind of fuzzy your communication style to the point that you start putting meaning behind everything. So you're still gonna be a person who talk a lot, but you're gonna put meaning behind everything you talk. And then the meaning you put behind it is gonna be constructed under whatever program you in. So whatever you think you right or got something figured out, you always going to want to preach or talk the meaning about it amongst your familiar places and faces. You know what I'm saying? But the issue here is everybody is not in the same program you in. That's why it's important for these signs to actually study communication, actually study teaching, because you can put yourself in situations where everyone always see you stumble and fall because they just always look at you as being overly excited over something you just learned. You know what I'm saying? And then you gain the expression and the feeling behind it, and then you want to put meaning behind it, but your meanings you're putting behind it may not always resonate to the people you're trying to talk to amongst the familiar places and faces. So, you know what I'm saying? You can kind of see the construct and the dilemma that Jupiter has here. Jupiter is the teacher. Jupiter has wisdom and knowledge. So it has wisdom and knowledge of communication, but as far as putting it into words, see, when you have knowledge and wisdom, that's more inside. Mercury is more on the outside. That's why Mercury likes to be here, which you can see, which you can understand. Meaning is something that you have to overstand. It's more something like you have to have an expression for. And a lot of these things is not really in the yang realm. So Jupiter, a lot of times, is working with the inside. So when you try to express the inside and the outside, if you don't have a good learning system or a good practical way from whatever program you in of expressing your inside, it's going to come across like it's just an expression. You don't know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? But you may know what you're talking about. It's just not coming across right. So that's the dilemma. But these people are very wise. It's good for them to learn in their life what conversations to jump into and what not to jump into. And these people are very inspirational when it comes to their familiar places and faces in their surroundings. Now we go to Saturn. Saturn is how one builds structure in one's life. Saturn is also boundaries and restrictions and limits, and where you're going to be placing those at in your life. So a person who got a good Saturn know how to put boundaries and restrictions and limits in the right places in their life. As far as like things like money or possessions, they know what restrictions and limits and how to handle that. People who got bad Saturn placements may be bad with money. They put boundaries and restrictions on other portions in their life, depending on what house is in and what sign is in. For an example, if Saturn in the fifth house, you may put boundaries and restrictions on and limit yourself on what you would be entertained by or not. But you should be putting boundaries and restrictions on your foundation in your life and stabilizing your life. You see what I'm saying? So right here, with Saturn in the third house, Saturn, a person is going to gain structure in one's life based upon communication and information. So they're gonna gain information of how to do things, and they're gonna communicate their way into doing these things. So a lot of times these people, I don't want to say followers, or they're not followers, but they like to go towards protocol and step-by-step procedure in order to do what people want them to do. Like as far as going to get an application, they're gonna talk to people. If you just got a job, these people, Saturn in third houses, these most likely going to be the people who ask you, man, can you go get me an application or something? Can you get me in? These people, you know what I'm saying, they'll pop up, they be on it. You know what I'm saying? Most likely those type of people. You know what I'm saying? They're going to take the step-by-step protocol, what they think was necessarily the steps to take in order to do it. And they did it through, again, gaining information. They knew you got their job. They know they're your friend. And then they go ahead and communicate with you. You know what I'm saying? Their way into how they think, how you got the job. You know what I'm saying? So these people is good with business. These people is good with, they know how to orchestrate and organize friends and organize amongst their surroundings, like their familiar places and faces. You know what I'm saying? These people you want around, they think as a construct. So a lot of times they can look at people as possessions, or they can look at persons like something they can get in and get out of. But you know what I'm saying? Now, a lot of times that's the only time they can be manipulative, but at times they know how to organize and orchestrate to the point that, you know what I'm saying, they become the authority figure in whatever group they're in, or amongst the familiar places and faces amongst their surroundings. Now, when you got Uranus in the third house. Now, Uranus is rebellion, change, but it's also uniqueness and originality. So you're going to be unique and original in your way of communicating and your way of being amongst the familiar places and faces in your surrounding. But when you are unique and original, when you are unique, you know what I'm saying, and original, it's always a change to what's already out there. So sometimes you're going to run into situations where it's like opposing, because it's like just you being you is a way of rebelling against what's already there. And in this case, it's communication and being amongst the familiar places and faces. So this makes you unique and original, but it also makes you rebellious, or people are going to be rebellious against you, aka giving you opposition because you're different, because what you're doing is different from what they're doing. So it's like it causes a change. You know what I'm saying? So that's what makes a person unique and original. But this like the civil rights leaders and all that shit, that's why they called them rebellious, because they was causing change. But what they was doing was unique and original. You see what I'm saying? They go hand in hand. This is the essence of Uranus. And Uranus is in Aries right now, y'all. But you know what I'm saying? Uranus in the third house that's how you're gonna be constructed amongst the familiar places and faces. Now Neptune is your dreams, illusions, imagination, and creativity. Now those go hand in hand, because you can be so creative. It takes an imagination to be creative, but you eventually doing all that, you become being in your own world. So you see illusions, you know what I'm saying, and that's how dreams play out. So you know what I'm saying, so those work hand in hand. So this is Neptune. So it's wherever Neptune at, you got to learn how to decipher through the illusion, but maintain your imagination so you can be a creative person. You know what I'm saying? Have beautiful dreams. So you know, with Neptune being in the third house, this is how you look at communication, and this is how you look at being amongst the familiar places and faces and your surroundings. So with Neptune here, you know what I'm saying, you have like an illusion placed on. You got like a kind of imaginative world amongst your friends, amongst your basic surroundings. Like you got this friend that's for this, you got this friend for that, you got them in this box, you got like kind of creative method of doing things. You become creative. You're creative with your communication style, you know what I'm saying, with how you communicate amongst people. Like you're dreaming, very imaginative, you like fantasy type things when it comes to comparing things in a metaphor type of way to things that's in reality, so you can you know how to tie the right brain to the left brain just right. You know what I'm saying? And you're one of those type of people. You know what I'm saying? So only thing here is learn how to decipher. Notice the further away of the planets I get, the shorter the descriptions get. You know what I'm saying? Pluto. Pluto is deep transformation, deep willpower, deep desires. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes here into the third house, you always in a realm of transforming, because you always feel a deep desire to communicate. So you're going to manifest situations that is going to be hard to communicate. So this is going to make you always feel deeply, you're going to have a deep desire to communicate, a deep desire to connect with your surroundings, a deep desire. So you're going to experience a lot of situations that make you feel otherwise, because opposites attract. My law of attraction video coming soon. Now, when it comes to Pluto being here, this is why you're always in a state of transforming, because you're always going to be in situations where you feel like you need to transform your style or way of communicating. So you're going to be looking towards others, or looking at ways and looking on the internet, looking deeply into whatever you got to look at, into learning ways of communicating and relating to people and things like that. So it's a form of transforming. You know what I'm saying? Transforming your way of communicating and being amongst the familiar places and faces in your surroundings. So that's how Pluto interacts here when it's in the third house. So just know that. So you have to work with your other lesser planets and lesser lights that's more down in the density that you can actually see, in order to construct these outer planets in the right way. So you have to see what they're squared to and what they're angled to. Flight boss, bitch, you know, for sure. And that's planets in the third house. Goddamn.